Okay. Just as a reminder, we can get more questions in if the answers are a little shorter. So, but you can talk the whole time. Okay, to the new non-incumbent candidates, how would you have voted on the most recent school calendar debate and why? And to the incumbents, how and why did you vote either for or against the calendar? So, Melissa, you start.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that I was worried about the unintended consequences of the calendar. I liked the idea of having a work-free break. That I did like, and as a school board member, we had started with some other efforts to try to make that happen way early in my term. What I was concerned about with this calendar, though, is it made a lot of other changes, and those lot of other changes actually, it was clear to me that there were going to be some unintended consequences. I could see what some of them were going to be, and I wanted to have some mitigations to that up front, and we didn't have them up front. So for me, that was an issue. It was also an issue to me that this was such a divisive conversation. I think that we didn't start the conversation with the values of the community and make them very clear. And as a result, we didn't have buy-in. And I compare this to our budget discussions, which we did follow a value-based process that got community input. And although budget discussions could be very divisive, we made cuts without divisiveness. So I think we could have had this conversation in a different way, and I look forward for the next round to do it in a much more inclusive, value-based way.
Heidi.
I've spoken to many parents out there who have been very concerned about this issue, and everyone has a different idea as to why we made this calendar change, which I think speaks to this question of needing to have more clarity of vision around implementation of something this big that's going to affect all constituents in the community, students, parents, and teachers. What I would do on the board is set up a web page on the PAUSD website for these sorts of complex issues. List the problem. What's the problem statement? What are the 3 things that we're aiming to address with this new policy or this new calendar change? Is it student stress? Is it no homework over winter break? Is it evening out uneven semesters? What are the problems that this is going to address? What's the research backing up this particular proposal? Why is this going to make a difference? And what are the metrics for how we're going to assess this implementation, whether it was successful or not? We can also set up our calendar at pausd.org email address for input from the community on that webpage. And it will give the community a lot more clarity as to why we're moving forward with that. This took up I think it was 5 board meetings this past year, and it concerns me that it might have been at the expense of other important issues in the community. If an issue like this is going to need more time, then we need to set up a study session for this particular issue so that we can go into it deeply.
Camille?
Yes, just for the record, again, this was one of those 3-2 votes that Melissa and I were in the minority on, but really it was an important conversation to have, but as a matter of policy, I do not like to adopt policies that create big winners and big losers, and we had too many students and too many parents who came to the board meeting and say, this really impacts our life in a really impactful way. And to me, that was a loser when you change your a calendar so substantially that right off the bat you have divided your community. What we can do, and what I still choose to do, because we still have to evaluate this calendar, it's the first year of a 2-year, and I absolutely agree with my colleague right here, is that we do have to set, what are our goals? What are we trying to achieve in a new calendar? What are the metrics by which you evaluate it? Is it everything from we're trying to create more connections for kids? Kids told us, hey, we can't spend time with our families with this new calendar and the way it breaks and the like. So the board needs to set up these metrics, and then we can assess it. So that's work ahead, and it's top of my list.
Ken?
So my position is that our high school students need a work-free winter break, and that's why I supported the calendar change at the time, and that's why I would have voted for it had I been on the board. When my kids were in high school, the lack of a work-free break was a real problem. They either had to work during the break, in which case they didn't really have a break, or they had to wait until the end of the break and then try to get all that work done. And in fact, what they did is kind of some of both, and that left them in the worst of both worlds. The reason that the school board passed this calendar when it did is quite clear, actually. I mean, there was 2 full sessions of discussion, and it was reducing the stress of the lack of a work-free break. So the rationale was quite clear. And that's why a work-free break has been part of the Project Safety Net plan that our community has provided for student well-being, and why it's been a topic of conversation for the last 10 years. What should we do next? Well, we should assess whether or not this change has produced the effect that we're looking for. We should start now, and we probably should have started before now, in looking to see if there's a lighter weight way of achieving a work-free break. But we should be honest with ourselves. If we don't have an alternative to a calendar change in order to do that, and it's because we've gone through all the alternatives and we can't find another one, then this is our best alternative, because our high school students do deserve this.